Welcome to Soccer's Morning Show. Soccer Down Here. It's John and Jarrett here, you there. And because we are in the midweek match day, we kind of have to invert things a little bit. So we're going to do the midweek Whiparound, patent pending, trademark coming sooner rather than later, possibly, hopefully, probably, maybe. That's going to be in hour number one. And then in hour number two, if Dylan Butler is not pinned in with all of his high school stuff, then he'll join us at 10 o'clock. Bard Keeler rejoins, and we'll see if he has come down from his high of celebrating Flair and Balogun Day. And we would like to once again congratulate all of those of you who did celebrate yesterday, and we hope that you celebrated responsibly with Flair and Balogun with the flip to the USMNT. There's a lot of other stuff on the table, so we could be going into added time this morning. So we'll see what happens. And so Jarrett Coco, so we'll go ahead. We'll just go ahead and make this opening kickoff brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee.
Yes, we will. Klaatu Barada Nikto.
Yes.
We're working to bring the Thrashers back. I hope I said all the words in the exact right way.
I think you did, yes.
Okay, beautiful. Because that we are the Phoenix voted down the new arena.
Yeah.
So there's already talk, John, that they might have played their last game in Arizona.
Yeah, there's that. There was a vote yesterday in Tempe. There were 3 ballot initiatives, I guess is probably the proper way to phrase it, about funding a new arena in Tempe for the Arizona Coyotes instead of having them play at a 5,000-seat facility on the campus of Arizona State University. And wouldn't you know, it's also named Mullet Arena.
Of course it is.
Insert joke here. And so apparently the Coyotes, if you listen to local reports, they didn't quite read the room right when it came to an in-between cycle election. And all 3 initiatives lost by anywhere from 10 to 12 points trying to get the arena built. So we will see if Gary Bettman knocks on Matt Ishbia's door and see, hey, can we play in your building? Or is it Kansas City? Is it Houston? Or is it the new alleged facility up north of Atlanta? So we will see what is going on.
And that's the thing is, this new. I'm not sold on the new facility north of Atlanta. First of all, the timeline does not work if they're trying to move Arizona out now,
Right?
at all. Second of all, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me here, I know they still do ice shows. If you told me, hey, I need you to have State Farm Arena ready for hockey in the fall, it's May right now. I'm pretty sure they can do it.
Yeah. You've got to make sure.
Depends on ownership.
Yeah, you've got to make sure that you have everything that meets spec when it comes to not locker rooms and things like that. That, State Farm, Phillips, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure meets spec when it comes to locker rooms and such. But it has to do with the maintenance of the ice surface and make sure that you have all of the equipment squared away to do it on a regular basis.
Ship in a Zamboni.
Yes.
There's a lot to it. I get it. I know there are other cities that would love to be in this. I know Houston has been a popular one for a lot of people as a place to put a team on. I'm sure Quebec City would love another shot at this. I can say for me personally, the idea of putting a team here from Arizona is almost too much to pass up, because I'm still pretty damn salty about the fact that they didn't move the Coyotes in the first place when they should have, and instead they moved the Thrashers.
Yeah. So, of course, Rich, he says, so does the Winnipeg hockey conundrum come full circle when the Coyotes move back to Atlanta? So.
That's what I'm hoping for, because really the Coyotes should have gone. Like the Thrashers in their last year here damn near made the playoffs with a very young roster. They had made a trade with Chicago after Chicago won their last cup and took a bunch of bodies off that Chicago roster when Chicago was trying to unload to get under salary cap.
Yeah.
And the fact that Atlanta just barely missed the playoffs with a pretty young squad.
Mm-hmm.
And man, that was like Dustin Bufflin was like a star in the making, and I think could have been a very big star in the city of Atlanta, personally.
Because he's tough and he's got the stuff.
Oh, yeah. But the fact that you kept the Coyotes there when it was very clear they didn't need to be kept, and sent the Thrashers packing. And part of that is just ownership having worms in their brain.
Oh God! Don't get me started on Atlanta Spirit. Yeah, Atlanta Spirit down here would be its own nighttime show, and it would have to have the explicit rating.
Oh yeah, that's after Safe Harbor.
Yes, no doubt about it. So
anyway, I know we have soccer things to talk about, but I did enjoy reading that.
Okay, so we have an update. Bart apparently celebrated too much on Flair and Ballaghan Day, so he won't be joining us at 10:30. But we do have a lot of news that we can take care of in the 10:30 half hour. So it's trust us, it's all good. Yes, we've got that to talk about. The Derby, the Madonnina yesterday. We've got that to talk about. I'm sure that Nick is still steaming over that. You've got Manchester City and Real Madrid's second leg, which is later today. And apparently still people like to question Pep Guardiola and his legacy and how good a coach he is. That's not really something that you should do in a press conference setting when it comes to Pep Guardiola. So here's the news that we'll take care of in the 10:30 half hour. Concussions have now been tied to NASL players. We've got the first 4 that were named there. VAR came public. Howard Webb on television, on English television, was discussing things that were going through, and they got their first choice. They got their first sample of that. Doubt that'll happen here anytime soon. Club rankings from CONCACAF, 2 in the top 10 for Major League Soccer. Everybody else is in Liga MX. Salaries are out if you want to talk about that. Michelle Kang is now part of the Olympic Lyon group. And so that creates an interesting dynamic with her ownership in Washington and the team for sale in Seattle, with her joining the group with OL overseas. Sheikh Jassim has put together a final bid for Manchester United, where he wants 100%. It looks like it's in the neighborhood of $7 billion. And Disco apparently put out the longest release known to human consumption when it came to this week in Major League Soccer. And so we've got that. It looks like Jason's going to be joining us in about 15 minutes. We've got other stuff from the morning. We've got the DOJ chasing after the Warner family. And anything else that's going on in the world today. There's stuff in the lower divisions where if you didn't make the finals in your championship or your playoff play-ins, that they're thinking, get this. Sunderland's thinking of sacking Tony Mowbray because they lost to Luton Town. So you make it into the championship playoff for the promotion, you lose, and now they're thinking of sacking you. So there you go. So that's like 10:30. And so in hour number 1, it is the midweek Whiparound, patent pending trademark coming. And we got a bunch of matches because that's the beauty of the midweek. And so we can purge what happened on the weekend and we can focus on Atlanta and Colorado. But they are not the only 7:30 match that's going on.
What else is going on then, John?
All right, we got a lot of 7:30s, by the way. Charlotte and Chicago Fire, and the way that this traditionally works for those of you that don't get to catch this on Friday is that we'll go through all of the matchups, we'll go through juice boxes, and if there's anything worth talking about in the matchup, we also have fun facts if we really want to do deep dives and those kinds of things and get into it. But we're saving Atlanta United and Colorado for the bottom of the hour when Jason drops in. Charlotte and Chicago, 7:39 kick. Charlotte is even money at a plus 100. Chicago is a plus 256 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Your draw is a plus 263.
I'm inclined to go Charlotte because they're already coming off of a very big win for them. They are also coming off of a situation where they're now going to have guys back. Mm-hmm. You're getting 2 players back who you had on suspension. Biltioloma, I'm not sure if he's back or not. But they still have had defensive issues, mm-hmm. Both on set pieces and in just standard defense, like especially in transition. Like, go look at the first. And I know you don't want to look at the Atlanta game. Go look at the first 10 minutes of the Atlanta game, though. Mm-hmm. If teams can get in transition moments, they have been very much capable of pulling Charlotte apart. I do not know However,
Yeah.
however, I don't know, 2 games into their new manager bounce, what Chicago's going to look like. I'm inclined to go Charlotte, though. They seem to have righted the ship and simplified things a bit. Capetti could just power them through that.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking. And then Chicago gets to turn around and play a team that we know on the weekend for their next match. Also at 7:30, Crew, downtown Crew, hosting the LA Galaxy. Crew favored at home, no real shock, at a -123. Your draws a +293, and LA Galaxy are a +305 in that one at lower.com. As LA travels west, and that one is on MLS Season Pass, by the way. Once again, 7:39 kick. Fun facts. First meeting between the Crew and the Galaxy in over 4 years.
Do we need to? I don't know, John. How do you trust the Galaxy? Even after this last weekend, do you trust the Galaxy?
God, no.
No, neither do I.
Winless in 6 straight away matches dating back to last season's playoffs, losing 4 of them, failing to score in any of their last 4 on the road. Longest road scoring drought in MLS play, including playoffs, since a run of 6 straight away games without scoring in 2004 and 2005.
And I think that the Crew are still flawed.
Yeah.
I think that what they did early in the season with a couple of demolition jobs papered over the fact that they're still flawed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not identical, but in a kind of sort of, and we can talk about this at the end of the month when we do our USL, when we bring the USL boys in.
Yes.
Kind of sort of not really similar to the Charleston Battery. There's differences as to why they are, but I still think that the early results kind of papered over the fact that it's a process.
Oof.
Like Wilfred Nancy wasn't going to he was not going to get all of the Caleb Porter out of their blood in one session.
Yes. Yes.
It's still better than being the Galaxy.
Yes. The Galaxy are in a world of hurt right now. Still I say, still in a world of hurt because of, just woof. I mean, right now, standings, you go into the standings in the West, and it takes a while to get to LA. It's still, the margins have closed, but it's still Sporting LA at the bottom, 13 and 14. LA 2-6-3. They've only scored 10 goals in 11 matches. They've given up 18, and they are 0-3-2 away from home this year. So that's what you're staring at when it comes to Columbus and the LA Galaxy. Also, 7:39. Cincinnati and Montreal. Sorry, FC Cincinnati and CF Montreal. Cincinnati at home, a -167, +309 on the draw. CF Montreal is a +441 on the road at TQL. This one is on the free side of Apple TV.
Cincinnati just keeps on chugging along, man. Like, they're not perfect, but they keep on chugging along,
Montreal's won 3 of their last 4 with Cincinnati, drawing the other one after Cincinnati won the first 3 between the two. Each of the last 2 meetings have ended 4-3 to Montreal. So no matchup in league history has featured 7 or more goals in 3 straight meetings. This one's got 2 straight that were 4.
I hope they get a 4-4 draw then.
That'd be funny.
Montreal would be pissed just because Montreal heard all of us ish talking them and decided to wake the hell up. And Hernan Losada is going to write a manifesto by the end of the month.
And, what are the odds that Hernan Losada basically just had them run from Montreal to Cincinnati for this match? Cincinnati's won all 6.
I mean, he maybe lightly jog. He's probably in a good mood because they've been playing really well. So maybe just lightly jog.
Cincy is a perfect 6-0 at home, winning each match by a 1-goal margin. The first team in MLS history to have this kind of a streak. Only 5 teams in MLS history have won their first 7 home games of a season. Most recently, Philly in 2020 when they won all 9. CF Montreal's won 6 straight in all competitions for the first time in the club's MLS era, dating back to 2012. Montreal scored 2 goals in each of the 6 wins after failing to find a net in 6 of the previous 7. So you've got that. CF Montreal held Toronto to 2 shots in the win on Saturday, neither hitting the target. Second time in club history, Montreal held an opponent to 2 or fewer attempts, with none hitting the target, doing so with NYCFC last July. Are you staring at Cincy in this one?
I'm really tempted to stare at Cincy in this one. But as I say that, Montreal's been so damn good, it's kind of like it kind of feels like a dick move to not pick Montreal. Also, I do like Montreal on principle.
Yeah.
The city and the team.
Yes. Also at 7:30, Purple Team and NYCFC. Right now, Orlando is a plus 124. And your draw and NYC are basically within the margin of error at a plus 230, 227, and 231 are your two numbers. Orlando City, good on you. This one, by the way, is also on the free side of Apple TV.
I don't trust Orlando. Meanwhile, I do not trust Orlando City as far as I can throw them.
Nope. They have not lost any of their last 6 home matches against NYC in all competitions, drawing 5, including 2 penalty shootout wins, having drawn 5 straight before winning 2-1 last August. NYC's last win at Orlando, a 2-0 victory in July of 2018. Orlando City played to the 2-2 draw with Columbus on Saturday, despite having an XG of 1.31 to Columbus's 3.5. Orlando's unbeaten in league play this season when they've got a lower XG than their opponent, compared to having 4 losses in 6 when they have a higher XG. Explain that one for me, Jerry.
Well, sustainability, because if we're going to have this conversation that we've been having since the Chicago match for Atlanta, you got to have it again about other teams too. I understand that doom and gloom exists, but doom and gloom exists outside of your own purview and outside of your peripheral visions. Yeah, man, Orlando, it kind of hasn't worked. I know you've already got folks in Orlando calling for Oscar's head. Don't really know what they want to do after that, because look at the last few hires they had before Oscar. They were all catastrophic. And Oscar was that stabilizing voice where they were able to actually, get somebody who had experience in the league, experience building out from an academy if needed. And yeah, man, I don't know how I feel about the concept of Orlando firing Oscar, because who are you going to get?
Who are you going to get?
Because the last few hires you've made were basically just stepping on a landmine for extended periods of time. Yeah, man, but it's still not good.
NYC is on a 4-game losing streak in all comps, with all of those games being on the road. The club's only longer all-comp losing streak, February to July of 2020, when they've lost 5 straight, last of which was to Orlando in the group stage, and MLS is back. So that's what you're staring at with that one. Philadelphia and D.C. Philadelphia is at a minus 154. Your draw's a plus 293. D.C. United is north of plus 410. And apparently D.C. United is going to be without like 17 players tonight because of injury or suspension or what have you. Their list is quite long tonight heading to Chester.
I mean, they're going to play they're going to play direct as hell anyway, so it doesn't matter. It'd be an interesting matchup though, because like DC going to just go over the damn top. Like DC's not going to tunnel through.
No.
DC's going to lob grenades to Christian Benteke.
Yes.
And I want to see how Philadelphia deals with it, because I think Rooney and DC are going to be pragmatic enough to say, hey, man, you know what happens if we try and screw around at the back? We turn it over and Philadelphia takes advantage of it. You know what we should do instead? If they're coming, we should just see if we can get a knockdown down the field. And I would like to see them go for it and see what happens. See if you can and see if you can frustrate Philly. Like if you can get a lead and kind of dark arts your way through Philly and make Philadelphia build it out, because Philadelphia's got guys who can do that. But and they've won some games on the bounce recently. But you're still kind of, I think, looking at this as maybe we can cause some problems for Philly.
And this one is on the free side of Apple TV. It's also on FS1, so that means that you get the super hyper mega pregame show, 7:55 kick on FS1 and on Apple TV. So if you want,
better than ESPN, who doesn't give a damn about their product. So
that's true. So 7:55 kick in Chester tonight. So please, Rich, plan your tailgating accordingly. You're going to have the super elongated pregame show before leading into that particular match. So that's your 7:30 on the free side on Apple TV. Last 7:30 match, Toronto FC hosting Red Bulls. Toronto FC is a plus 154. Your draws a plus 213, and Red Bulls are a plus 191 in that one. And that one is on the season pass side of Apple TV. But Apple is running that special where they want to try to bring folks in. So you can get, I think, a free month of Apple TV, if I'm not mistaken, if you don't have it already, and get MLS season pass for a month for free to kind of sample the service. And that's what they're kind of doing this month.
You get a free month of Apple TV, and if you jump on that, what you end up with is a situation with some people who will sign up for it, and then they'll forget about it, and all of a sudden they're getting, they're getting billed monthly for it, and they forget they did it. They're not checking their bank statement. So
correct, and they're like, "Well, gee, what happened here?" And it's like, "Oh, that's what happened," and then it's too late, and then you have to wait 11 months before you say no, and then you forget 11 months later, and then it gets renewed. And that's what they're kind of looking at. Toronto FC, it was a mess last time out.
It is a mess.
It is.
Marshall Ruddy's going to be out. Marshall Ruddy picked up an extra game suspension in that long disciplinary hearing, by the way, or disciplinary committee report, because he got sent off, then came back on the field afterward.
Yeah, that's good.
So he picked up another game suspension.
Good work. Add on. Red Bulls have lost only one of their 10 against Toronto FC since the start of 2018, winning 7. They've scored in their last 16 matches against Toronto, including the playoffs, longest scoring streak for Red Bulls and a run of games without a clean sheet for Toronto in each club's MLS history. After a run of 5 straight unbeaten at BMO, Toronto's lost consecutive home matches in all competitions. Reds have not lost 3 straight home matches in all comps since a 5-match losing streak from March to May of 2012. Red Bulls have each won their first 2 matches under Troy Lacine in all comps, including Hudson River last week. Second coach in Red Bulls history to win their first 2 matches in charge of the club after Hans Backe in 2010. Did not know that one. And Red Bulls held 31.5% possession in their win over NYC on Saturday. 7th time since the start of 2021 that New York has won a match while holding less than 1/3 of the ball, of the 1/3 of the time having possession of the ball. No other team has more than 4 such wins in that time. By the way, you post that in Fun Facts. Red Bulls look at you and goes, "Yes, so." They don't care.
Red Bulls don't care.
They don't care.
Hey, Red Bulls are the most Al Davis team, man. It's just win, baby. Who cares? All that cares is those 3 points. How you get them? Hey, man. Hey, Jonesy and Riley said it best in Shoresy. They don't ask how, they ask how many.
And that's on the season pass side of Apple TV. Once again, 7:39 kick. Your 8:30s, once again, Central Time Zone for you and me. FC Dallas hosting the Whitecaps. FC Dallas is a plus 106 at home. Your draw is a plus 243. And Vancouver is a plus 260 in Frisco, Texas. So FC Dallas, you're like, yeah, okay, you're at home. I get this. Vancouver is 3-3-5 going up against 5-3-3. Whitecaps unbeaten in their last 5 at FC Dallas after losing each of their first 8 matches in the series. Run equals Vancouver's longest road unbeaten run against any opponent in the club's MLS history. 5 straight from Colorado from 17 to 21. FC Dallas has conceded exactly once in each of their last 9 home matches, dating back to a 1-0 win over the Union last August. Dallas has not allowed more than 1 goal in a club record 15 straight home matches with Vancouver. 2-0 last June, the last visitors with multiple goals at Toyota Stadium. Whitecaps are winless in 13 straight MLS matches on the road, drawing 7, losing 6. Second longest active winless run away from home in Major League Soccer. Jarrett, your Quakes have 14 straight. Vancouver's last road win in league play was that 2-0 win at Dallas last June. Last 11 non-own goals scored by the Whitecaps in MLS play have been scored by Americans or Canadians. Longest run of consecutive goals for a team scored by players from this hemisphere since Toronto had 13 straight in 2016. What say you, Jared Smith?
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
I don't want to.
That sounds like a draw.
Sounds like a draw.
So that's a draw at 8:30 with that one. Loons and the Dynamo at Allianz. Loons are a minus 119. Houston's a plus 330, and your draw's a plus 263. We got.
Give me the Houston plus 330.
Okay.
I don't care if Reynoso's training again.
Okay. Yep. And we don't know when Bebe Reynoso is going to be back amongst the active roster types.
I just do not care. You have given me the option of Ben Olsen's fighting Dynamo, getting that ex-dog over the top. Give me that.
There you go.
I don't need much to convince me. That way.
At Geodis, Nashville hosting Inter Miami. Nashville is a minus 172 at home. Your draw's a plus 307. Inter Miami is a plus 478 on the road.
Yeah, no, I'm not that crazy. I don't like Nashville.
That one's
much like the Squidbillies song with T-Pain about I like to ride in my truck. Auburn sucks, but this isn't Auburn. This is much. I don't care much for Nashville.
Yes.
But Hani Mukhtar is doing Hani Mukhtar things again.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yes. So
Inter Miami runs into the Nashville wall, and it's not so much an indictment of Inter Miami or of Inter Miami as it is. Hey, Nashville's in the groove.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Nashville to minus 172 at 8:30. 9:30 in Rio Tinto. It's RSL and the Portland Timbers. RSL is a minus 110. Your draw and Portland are basically within the margin of error with each other, plus 275 and plus 280.
Portland is one that I can never bet against because I feel like it's cheating to bet against Gio.
Yeah.
I feel like Gio will find me in a dark alley and stab me.
Well, I was thinking that might be more later in the year, more than anything. RSL has won consecutive meetings with Portland in all comps for the first time since 2017, including the 4-3 win at Open Cup last week. RSL scored 7 goals in those 2 wins, tied for their most in a 2-game span against Portland, doing so in August 2013. RSL has been shut out in each of its last 3 matches, with the most recent being the 3-0 loss to LAFC over the weekend. For the season, RSL has been held scoreless in 6 of their 11 MLS games, with only Sporting having been shut out more often with 7. Portland had a 2-0 lead after 18 minutes in their 3-1 home win over Vancouver, fastest 2 goals from the start of an MLS match for the team since scoring twice in the first 7 minutes of MLS Cup in 2015 back in Columbus. Rubio Rubin had 5 shots from inside the box. The rest of his teammates combined for 4. Rubin's second time attempting 5 or more shots from inside the box since joining RSL in 21. Same amount of such games as all other RSL players combined in that span, and to your note on your Timbers. Over the Timbers' last 3 matches, Evander had been involved in 5 of the team's 7 goals, 3 goals, 2 assists. His 2-goal effort Saturday made him the 22nd different player with a brace in MLS play for the Timbers, as the club still searches for their first MLS hat trick. I did not know that they never had a hat trick in team history.
Atlanta has 4 players with a hat trick in their history, and Portland doesn't have one. And I get it. Joseph might have more hat tricks than most teams in this league.
Yep.
And then a number of teams combined. However, Atlanta also has hat tricks from Miguel Almiron, Juan Operata, and Ronaldo Cisneros.
Yes, that is true.
Because none of that makes sense.
No, none of it does.
Atlanta's sitting there on 8 or 9 hat tricks in their history.
Mm-hmm. And Portland has Seto. Your 2 10-39s, LAFC at home, hosting Sporting Kansas City. Prohibitive favorite, no real surprise. LAFC is a minus 217. Your draws a plus 370. Sporting is a plus 533 at BMO Stadium in Los Angeles. Yikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the season pass.
Sporting is in revenge mode right now. Don't just leave Sporting alone.
Yes.
They're in revenge mode. Just stay away. Just if you can avoid them, avoid them. You miss the window.
Mhm.
If you end up playing Sporting, you're going to feel like God has forsaken you because you missed the time where they were just god awful and were getting more red cards than goals.
Mm-hmm. And the last one on the board. Now, we mentioned how things are in the Western Conference. Seattle at 10:39 kick on the season pass side for Apple, hosting Austin FC. Austin is 2-5-4 this year.
They're
10
bad.
points, 10 points, 12th, a point out of last place. 1-2
And those 2 wins haven't been convincing either, just so
no.
we're clear.
One at home at Q2, one on the road. They are 1-3-1 on the road this season in Major League Soccer. They have only scored 10 goals in 11 games. They've given up 17, and a lot of teams have only scored 10 goals in the Western Conference. That's weird. Houston, Minnesota, Colorado, Salt Lake, Austin, and LAG have scored.
I told you to take Houston over Minnesota, too, for a reason, yo.
All have scored only 10 goals this year. That's 6 teams. 6 of the 14 teams in the Western Conference have only scored 10 goals this year. That's just weird. That is a weird stat. Juice boxes in this one. Seattle a -185. Your draws a +326. Austin on the road is a +493. This one to me is the no-brainer of the late kicks. Going with an angry Seattle team right now who is
Seattle's pissed. And Seattle, like,
2.
grinding their way to a win last week is fine, but, yeah, man, Seattle's going to be pissed off, and now they get to potentially take it out on Austin? Yeah.
Yeah. So 7-3-2 Seattle right now, 23 points. They've only given up 9 goals this year in 12 matches, and they have scored.
Nice.
Yeah, they've scored. They've scored 19. Just so everybody knows, we do have fantasy numbers. I mean, we do have your fantasy picks this week. Join the fantasy league if you haven't. Jason Wright with a WAGEN on Twitter, the Jason Wright Agency Facebook page. Matt Wojteko has given us the fantasy picks. Your lock for the week, and actually, tell you what, since we've gone through all the matches and we're getting into fantasy, we'll bring Jason in here. Jason, fantasy picks this week, before we get into Atlanta and Colorado. Courtesy of our friends at the Jason Wright Agency, lock of the week. Walker Zimmerman at $9.7 million. About a quarter of the folks have picked Walker Zimmerman going up against Miami, but Walker Zimmerman at 9.7 is the lock and goalkeeper and defense.
Can't really argue with that too much when you look at Nashville and Miami, although Miami's in good form. They are on the road in this one. So, yeah, I like that pick.
All right, and then midfield and forward lock is at Denny Bouanga at 11.9, 26%. Yep. Have taken him on a double match week.
Yeah, Kansas City's won 2 in a row. That's who LAFC's facing tonight. But, yeah, double match week, Bouanga, yeah, pretty good.
Consider goalkeeper and defense Joe Willis at 9.3 in Nashville's double match week. Only 4% have picked Joe Willis so far.
Yeah, same thing we talked about. I mean, Willis is one of the more underrated guys. I think he's back to his good form after kind of wobbling there for a minute where Nashville – and Gary Smith looked like they were thinking about going in a different direction at goalkeeper, but Willis is back to his best. So, yeah, that's a good pick, and it's one that I don't know why Joe Willis flies under the radar so much. I mean, I didn't know why they were looking at another goalkeeper. He's been one of the best in the league since he went to Nashville.
And then Hani Mukhtar is the consider on midfield and forward for the offensive reasons attached to Nashville.
So the Jason Wright Agency is trying to become a Nashville sponsor, it sounds like.
Yeah, 3 of the 6 are Nashville picks. Yeah,
I mean, it's all good.
Walker Zimmerman, Joe Willis, Hani Mukhtar. And your value pick for goalkeeper and defense, Danil Maldonado, $6.6 million versus Sporting in San Jose. Only 1% have picked Maldonado out of LAFC.
That's a bold pick, but again, when you're looking at trying to find a value pick, unless it's somebody who's new to the league or somebody who has just come up from like Next Pro and is killing it right now, like going with a lesser player from an LAFC is pretty good move right now.
Midfield forward value pick Enzo Capetti at 6.6 going up against Chicago and Nashville. Only 1% have picked Capetti so far.
Only 1% have picked Capetti. That's crazy because one, he's fresh. Two, Charlotte's at home for both games, and he's their attack. He's their best player in my opinion. So yeah, that's a really good move.
There you go. That's your fantasy selections brought to us by our friends at the Jason Wright Agency. Jason Wright with a W Agency on Facebook. Jason Wright with a WAGEN on Twitter. If you haven't joined the Fantasy League, join the Fantasy League because I'm sure you could do better than I am this year because I am hurting in the Fantasy League, both in the OG Pro Rel League and in the overall. So join the league and beat me. I guess
you don't have
John's
any
not
players
sandbagging y'all either. John's just not good.
No.
Yeah, you don't have any players who have left the league, do you?
Not this time right now.
Did you keep Grueso on your team until he came back to the league?
Yes, actually I did.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So that was
honestly, I respect the dedication.
I mean, sure.
Yeah. News out of Barca before we get into Atlanta and Colorado. Matteo Alemany, now surprisingly set to stay at Barca, according to Fabrizio Romano, changing his mind after an official announcement of his departure, having agreed in principle with Villa. Never signed any paperwork, so Barca is now going to supposedly hang on to Alemany going forward.
England getting denied.
Exactly. 7:39 kick. Atlanta United, Colorado Rapids. Atlanta United is a minus 152 in the juice boxes. Draw is a plus 305, and the Rapids are a plus 388. Jarrett, first question for Jason for you.
Okay, if for people who might be jumping into this without looking at Colorado, because I know Colorado has kind of been the island of misfit toys in the past. Who are you keeping an eye on, or who are you telling people to keep an eye on?
Connor Ronan, he's their best player. He's a holding midfielder. He's not somebody who's gonna wow you with a ton of stats, but he's the steadying presence that they've needed. He did have 3 assists in their win at LA Galaxy, scored the goal from the spot against Philadelphia. Ronan, previously with Wolves, he's the guy for me, and he's just one of those, guys that I think, we were just talking fantasy, like he's not going to show up there. He's not going to show up in a bunch of highlights, but he makes that team better. And this is a Colorado team that on the road has been better than they've been at home, which makes no sense in Major League Soccer. They have not won a game at home yet, and they've won 2 on the road. So Colorado is a strange one. This is a team that I think will put numbers behind the ball. Probably more of a line of 5 than the 3-4-3 that we've seen at times at home. The wingbacks will sit deeper. Will it be a true 5-3-2 or more of a 5-2-3? I think either way, you're going to put numbers behind the ball. You're going to ask Ronan to hold things down in front of the back line, and you're going to play the ball forward directly to Rubio, to Lewis, to Cabral. Maybe 2 of the 3, depending on how Robin Fraser wants to handle it. And you're going to kind of go old school and ask those guys to figure it out. You're not going to build up the play. There's not going to be a lot of patterns in the attack. It's going to be numbers behind the ball. Try to keep the 0 on the board. And if your 3 attacking players who all have pace, all have good individual talent, all good in 1v1s, you're going to ask them to go win the game for you.
For Atlanta United, obviously, no Andrew Gutman because of the red card. Caleb Wiley's at the U20s. What are you anticipating when it comes to starting 11s going up against this match on a quick turn from the weekend?
Well, I think that last part's the important one. And I've seen some of the conversation about playing 3-5-2 and going to 3 center backs. I don't think you're going to be able to do that because you don't have the training time to do it. And, I feel like we say this all the time, but you can't just throw players into positions and expect it to work. That's not how any good team does it. And yes, Atlanta United's a good team. Crazy. I know the narratives say otherwise. You can't play that way because then you don't have any chemistry. You're just asking guys to figure it out. Like, oh no, I'm sure you've played 3 in the back at some point recently, and maybe not with these guys, but you did. And yeah, you'll be fine. That's not how a team that wants to control games plays. That's how a reactive team plays. And it's honestly how bad teams play. So I don't think you can get to a 3-5-2 quick enough because we haven't seen it this year. It's not something that this team has played. It's not something that they train. It's not something that they've worked on so far because first portion of the season, you're trying to build the way you want to play. You get later into the year, you can make little tweaks like that. You have a full week of training and you decide that's the tactical approach against a team, you can then work through it. When you don't have a full week of training and, look, you don't have a lot of training time between Saturday and this one. And you don't have really hardly any training time to go at 100%. So I think you've got to go with what works. So you get back to the decision, like you can go kind of 50-50 on it and play a Luis Abram as a left back who is really a center back, but has played left back. He's not going to get forward as much as a typical left back would, but he can be a hybrid to allow you to have kind of three center backs if you decide that's the way to go. I think that's the riskiest option. Aiden McFadden would be another option. We've seen him play left back for Atlanta United too. Saw it with the preseason as well. He played right back last year, pretty much exclusively, but this year he's played a lot of left back, I think, to become that utility fullback as needed for both teams, for the first team when they need it and for the second team. So he can allow guys like Tyler Young to play on the right, get his minutes, and then he can move over to the right and allow somebody like Fuad Adeniyi to play at the left back position like we've seen in the last couple of games. So McFadden's a possibility. He came off in the 60th minute on Sunday against Crown Legacy, I think by design, knowing that he would be needed for this one and probably needed for a little while with Wiley away. But Ronald Hernandez is the easiest solution here. Ronald Hernandez is someone that Gonzalo Pineda's talked about in terms of training well, and the minutes haven't been there for him because Brooks Lennon has been outstanding this season. So Hernandez moving over to the left side, we've already seen that before during his time here in Atlanta. He's a right back by trade, but he's good enough with his left to not have to play it as an inverted fullback. So all his runs when he gets forward, it's not all going to be getting in on his right foot. He can cross with his left. He can play on his left foot. So he can give you everything you need, but I think just being on the opposite side from where he is most comfortable, he'll probably stay home a little bit more than an Andrew Gutman or a Caleb Wiley would out of that position. So again, talking about, the clamor, I think, from some, which it goes back and forth, in terms of, do the fans want this team to play in a 3-5-2 or a 3-4-3 as opposed to a 4-3-3? I think Hernandez gives you a little bit of that in between where little safer in terms of staying home versus a Gutman or a Wiley, but also can get forward and stretch the field in the ways that Atlanta wants their fullbacks to do.
Jarrett, go for it.
Let's talk about the midfield because Marcedic sounds like he's going to be missing an extended period of time with injury. It's Mateus Asetu, I imagine.
100% it's Mateus Asetu.
However, the options that open up behind him, is it a Johnny Fortune being that guy off the bench? Is it Santiago Sosa at times, depending on what the game calls for, coming in and kind of providing some sandpaper in that midfield and his ability on the ball?
Well, I think it's twofold because, one, Josetu started the season as the 8. He was injured. Sejdic got the opportunity and really kept the position kind of on lock because he's been so good. He's going to be out for a little while. It's a calf injury. I'm assuming of a muscular nature. I don't think it's anything like a tear or anything like that. You could see the issue happen off the ball on Saturday night, and I thought he was going to have to come out in the first half. He was able to play it, and he was moving around fine. I mean, I guess it loosened back up, and he was able to go for a while, had to come out in the second half. Amar's been a really good connector for this midfield. Josetu can do a lot of that, but Josetu is a little more physical. He's a little more of a guy who can dribble to break lines. Probably a little bit better defender, can sit back a little deeper when needed and give you more of the defensive side of the 8, the box to box, the mixed midfielder. Mateus can give you a good bit of that. So it's Mateus Josetu as the 8. I don't think there's any question about that. The opportunity that presents itself, I don't think it's as much for Sosa, because Sosa and Ibarra is a 50-50 competition as well in general, where Sosa's had some good moments since getting the opportunity after Ibarra started the season really well. I loved the work from Franco Ibarra late in the game when it's 3-0 down. He was one who really was defending the shirt, defending the crest, all those intangibles that we talk about. He was fighting, and I love
his heat map was all over God's creation, and he let it break at one point trying to make something happen.
Yeah, I love to see it, but that doesn't take away from the fact that at times in this game, and this wasn't the case when he was playing consistently earlier, at times in this game he wasn't good enough on the ball. He wasn't good enough with his distribution. The work rate, though, I love it, and he's going to keep getting minutes because of that. But I think the competition with Ibarra and Sosa isn't fully decided. I think you'll see both play, especially in weeks like this, where you're going to have 90 minutes, then a couple of days rest, then 90 minutes, and a few days rest, then 90 minutes. You're going to have to need both of them at the 6. So I think the opportunity that presents itself is for Johnny Fortune. And Johnny's someone that Gonzalo Pineda really likes. Josechu isn't going to be able to play every single minute, I don't think. I hope he can. But when he needs a break, you need a Johnny Fortune ready to go. And that means he's got to step up and deliver. That's what happens in these situations for young players. We saw it last year with a Caleb Wiley. Yes, he made mistakes when he got a lot of minutes at fullback last year with all the injuries, but it served him better in the long run. And he played well. He did make mistakes. You're going to have to expect some mistakes with a young player who steps in as depth gets tested. But they've got to step up as well. And that's what it comes down to, because you never know when you get that opportunity. An injury can happen, a couple injuries can happen, call-ups can happen, and the door opens. And you've got to do everything as a young player to keep that door open and not let it close on you. And I think, we've talked about it from the backup forward position. There's been opportunities for Miguel Berry, for Machop Chol to lock down that spot, and neither one has. If a Johnny Fortune gets an opportunity, he's got to come in and deliver. And I think he will over these next few weeks with Amar Sejdic. I'm guessing it's going to be not just a one-game kind of thing. I'm guessing it's going to be at least a couple of weeks. So a Johnny Fortune has to be ready, because you never know when that opportunity is going to come, and he's got to take full advantage of it because he's got the ability to.
You've spent time at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground this week, and you got to listen to Quentin Westberg. And the Q&A that was there with Q, sorry, that just was there.
Bump.
Unintentional. I thought that the Q&A that you had with Q was really interesting about addressing the lulls and being there and being present for the 30 minutes and things like that. I thought that was really intriguing stuff. For those that didn't get the chance to listen to the conversation that was had with Quentin Westberg, go into that a little bit for me.
Yeah, I'll try to paraphrase. It came up on my Atlanta Soccer Tonight show on Monday night. I think there was a lot of talk about intensity and effort and urgency as the same thing, and they're not. The idea that people would take the post-game comments and say that, well, the team's not trying and not playing hard, that's not true. That's flat out not true, and that's stretching words to mean something that they don't. You also have to remember that Gonzalo Pineda's first language is Spanish. So sometimes words get chosen, and he talked about it yesterday. Urgency was really the better way to put it, and that's what he talked about with the players. Intensity doesn't cover in the entire aspect of what he was talking about. So kind of as I was going back through this game and thinking back to Miami and preparing for the show on Monday night, you have to figure out how to manage those lulls in urgency and intensity, and in not effort, but in just full capacity to work, because they happen. I don't care what team you're talking about. We've talked about this from the pressing team perspective. They can't run 100 miles an hour for 90 minutes. It's just not how your body is built. You have to slow down at some point. You have to catch your breath. You have to let the lungs and the muscles reload. And that's the same for a team that plays in the way that Atlanta United does, especially the way these games have gone, where the last two specifically, Atlanta's had full control of the game in the first 30 minutes. Last 2 games, first 30 minutes, the opponent had no shots. The Charlotte goal came in what minute? I'm saying 30. I want to make sure that this isn't going to be twisted around on me if they scored in the 28th.
Okay. I'll dig it up. Keep going.
Wherever. You get my drift. That was their first shot. Miami didn't have their first shot until after the 30th minute in Fort Lauderdale. Atlanta didn't get anything to show for the control. And what happens a lot of times is you hit a point after that much control without something to show for it, that there's that drop, that lull. And you have to figure out how to manage it. Some teams will just drop numbers behind the ball and kind of ride things out, hold on to the ropes, let things reload and go from there. Others will kind of double down. Others will try to keep the ball and rest in possession in a lot of ways. Where was the goal in the Charlotte game? You got it?
18th minute for Mira.
Okay, that was a little bit earlier than I thought. So first 15 minutes, first 18 minutes, we'll say it that way. When you have that control in games and you don't get something to show for it, there's going to be the drop. How you manage the drop is the important part. And that was what I was asking. I asked Gonzalo about it as well, and I asked Quentin about it. Quentin's one of the most thoughtful guys that you're going to get a chance to talk to when he is available for media. And he's great. He's one of the nicest guys you could ever imagine. And he gave a really thoughtful answer about the balance of patience and impatience. And that's really what this comes down to. I think the idea for me is more of you need to get something out of that control early, because when you do, the lull doesn't happen in the same way. Let's say let's say 18 minutes. Let's go there. After Atlanta had 2-3 really good opportunities before that.
Yeah.
The big kick save from Kalina, the cross from Araujo that I think Wiley put over the bar, and the cross from Lennon that Kalina got a fingertip to. That's 3 huge opportunities early that you get nothing out of. Lull. Miami, you have the Machop Chol opportunity late in that first 30 minutes. Don't get it. After, I think, a couple other shots, Miami had nothing. Lull. When you get that goal, let's say Chol scores, let's say the last of the opportunities against Charlotte, you score that, where your body might be getting tired, you get a rush of adrenaline. Boom. You're not tired. You're actually on the ascendancy, and you can go get that second then. And that's what we've seen this team do quite a bit. That's the hard part of it. So you get into the lull, how do you handle it? And it's the idea, and I think Quentin said it best, it's okay to be at 0-0 at that point if you're in control of the match. You want, obviously, 3 goals in that first period where you have the control. It's not always going to happen that way. And if it's a 1-0 win and the goal comes in the 15th minute or in the 85th minute, it still counts the same. It's still the same win. And Atlanta's got to handle those moments where maybe they get a little frustrated because they didn't get it. They didn't get the goal. Maybe they get frustrated because of a big save. Maybe they get frustrated because of a big miss. They've got to handle those moments and still be patient in those situations. And maybe, like what I said about the kind of resting in possession idea, that's where you show the patience. Is you don't force things when you haven't broken the opponent down. You don't force things in terms of being more aggressive and overly aggressive. You maintain your control. And sometimes the best way to maintain that control of the game in those points is to be more patient. And that's what I think this team has to find that balance of. And look, it's not an easy thing. You're not going to find metrics to back that up. You're not going to find numbers to explain how you do it. It's a lot of feel. And I think that's something that is maybe the next step for a guy like a Thiago Almada, for someone like a Luis Araujo, who at times I think their natural inclination in those moments is to try harder, to go harder, to risk it a little bit more. Whereas in those moments, maybe it's okay. I got to keep it. I got to keep working the ball around for my opportunity. And yeah, we might have 30 passes in the attacking half in a sequence because the opponent, and this is one of the reasons why this is happening, is Charlotte dropped numbers behind the ball from early on. Miami dropped numbers behind the ball from early on. Colorado's going to drop numbers behind the ball from early on. Maybe you have to take those 30 passes. maybe you just get them moving side to side. You wait for your opening. You have a little bit of patience. When the opening hits, you strike and you go. But don't force it to then give the team an opportunity to counter and make something happen the other way when you're in that lull. And it's tough. It's really hard to do, especially with talented players who think that they can score every opportunity they have the ball at their feet. But that patience is the key. And it's a really hard thing. I think Manchester City, Barcelona, in Pep Guardiola's years, the way that they play, Bayern was a little bit different in the way they played it, but they suffered with this too. You have to deal with these moments in games. I think Arsenal's learning how to do it right now under Mikel Arteta. Teams that are going to have a lot of the ball against opponents who are going to put numbers behind it, you've got to figure out how to, I guess, accept that it's not easy to get those goals early on and not let the lack of a goal break you emotionally and hurt you going the other way. It's a really tough balance, but it's something Atlanta United's got to learn because opponents are just putting numbers behind the ball, not playing pretty soccer against Atlanta United. They don't care. They're just looking for the result, and they're getting them right now.
Broadcast plans for you and for Mike today.
It is 7 o'clock, 92.9 The Game, Odyssey app, Atlanta United app. Also, Apple TV, MLS Season Pass once the game starts. I think they usually kick that in about 7:30-ish. Just go down to the audio options and choose Home Team Radio. And we'll have a full-time report for an hour, and I won't need to be subbed out for the full-time report this time by Jarrett Smith.
Jarrett Smith subbed in last time.
I mean, we are in match compression, so, I had to come out of the match.
He did. And I was not thrown out of the booth by Miller Pope, so it was a successful night.
Yeah, I'll talk to Miller about how all that went and how much he had to restrain himself.
Miller's not one to mess with, so I leave Miller to himself.
Yes.
Jason, get back to studying. We'll catch up with you later tonight, my friend.
Sounds good. Adios.
Right. That's Jared. That's Jason, who's hanging out.
Oh, that's Jarrett, too. He's leaving, too.
Okay, so Jarrett's leaving, too. There you go. So Jarrett's leaving, too. You're all leaving me here so we can talk about all the news that's going on here in our
Yes.
So, are you going to be at the match tonight, by the way?
Hopefully.
Okay.
That's the plan, tentatively.
All right. So, there you go. Jarrett Smith's tentative plan is to be there. And so, I'm going to be all alone for hour number 2 unless somebody else wants to hop in. Jarrett, we'll see you later.
Yep.
All right. There's Jarrett. So, Jarrett's leaving. They're all leaving me here. But now, trust me, we got news to talk about. There's plenty to talk about. So, plenty to talk about in hour number 2, all the news that's fit to print. And after I'll actually tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and bring Dylan in because I was on the verge, Dylan, of reading the promo just to kind of get us into hour number 2. But since you popped up, I'm just like, all right. So there you go. Dylan Butler hanging out with us at OSDB Sports and MLSsoccer.com. Dylan, it is one of our first match compression multi-match weeks here with Major League Soccer in 2023. How much chaos is going through your brain having to purge what happened on the weekend in short notice and turning around and getting ready for matches now?
Yeah, it's what they call thick and fast, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you're right. It's I was thinking about that kind of coming in, like, what are we gonna? Are we breaking down what happened on the weekend? Are we talking about what's ahead on Wednesday? And then obviously on Saturday. So yeah, it's a busy time for sure. And look, you expect this too. With Leagues Cup, you can't take a break from a league without there being some sort of match congestion, right? So this is where we are.
Yes. So in the exceedingly generic toss department, have you ever seen a disciplinary report coming from Major League Soccer that was as long as the one that was submitted yesterday?
So it's interesting you mentioned that, right? Because one of my duties as an editor on the site is to handle said disciplinary summary, as well as the they call it the player availability. It's the old injury report.
Right.
So yeah, no, that was pretty wild. Going through all of those different, and it was funny because I think there was only 3. A lot of times you'll get the yellow card accumulation suspension. But there were only 3, and ironically, they were all for the Red Bulls. Like, how do you not realize you got 3 guys on yellows, and yet they all get them, right? Like, it was a crazy bingo there in the Hudson River Derby. But and these are all like legit, second violent conduct and all the serious ones. Like even one who has like a double suspension where the initial red for a second yellow, right? And then re-entering the field to join a confrontation.
Marshall Ruddy, what are you thinking, son?
Yeah.
All right, so here's everything that Dylan typed. Andrew Gutman on a dog show, out for Colorado. Rodney Reyes, red card, second caution, out against Seattle. Do we know if the Brian Galvan violent conduct included the spit, or are they still thinking about the alleged spit?
It didn't include it.
Okay. So Brian Galvan out tonight for Colorado. Bassi out for serious foul play against Minnesota. Ache out second caution against Minnesota. David Ruiz, second caution, out tonight against Nashville. Andres Reyes, yellow card accumulation. Sean Nealis, yellow card accumulation. Christian Caceres, yellow card accumulation, all out against Toronto. Von Zier, still suspended, out against Toronto. Jesus Bueno, Philly, violent conduct, out against D.C. Everybody's out for D.C. anyway, so this kind of evens it out a little bit. I think D.C.'s got like 712 injuries tonight. John Nelson, no relation, second caution for the Reds. He will not be playing against Sporting Kansas City on the weekend. We mentioned Marshall Ruddy, who got the additional game, and there you go. So fun for Dylan Butler in the typing department. I'm surprised you actually still have fingernails. So
that was a rough one.
When you look back at what happened on the weekend, what sticks out in your mind of moments of ish or anything that has worked its way forward? What sticks out in your mind from the weekend other than the massive disciplinary report?
That's honestly the top thing, right? Like the 9 red cards that we've never seen before. And the funny thing is, like, you're like, well, it's rivalry week, right? Like these guys are going at it. But perhaps who knew that Philly Colorado was a big rivalry, right? Because
exactly.
That was insane.
And who knew that apparently Atlanta and Charlotte was not. So
good point.
You look at now. All right, so let me ask you this: with what happened in Classique, and we talked about Classique last week.
Yeah,
with the thrown megaphone, which was never on a bingo card. It was never on my bingo card anyway. A thrown megaphone at Mark Anthony K. And I don't even know if it was Dude's megaphone. And if it wasn't his megaphone that he threw at Mark Anthony K., then somebody's got to be asking for anywhere from $55 to $220 for that megaphone. We know that that Toronto FC is doing something. They've apparently found 4 fans that were part of
Banned for Life.
Banned for Life of the alleged assault that happened up in the rafters. Then Toronto FC goes up against Montreal again at Stade Saputo. The one section is empty, which made for interesting visuals. Where is Bob Bradley now on the list of hot seats? Has he hit full blown habanero 3 Mile Island yet, or where is he?
You would think so. And by the way, going back really quick to the Classique, that's sort of like, I feel like that's low key. Maybe the second, you can maybe argue the second fiercest rivalry right now, right? Behind maybe Trafico, right?
Yeah.
Because and I love it too, because again, it's everything, it checks all of the boxes, it feels like, where there is a geographical component not too far from each other, province over, the whole French versus English. It's a rivalry that's, multiple sports as well. There's just not
Maple Leafs, Canadiens. That's all you got to say, brother.
100%. Right. So, and then it plays out on the pitch in so many different ways. So, big fan of the Canadian Classic. So Bob Bradley, yeah, you know what's funny? I think even more now that the salary information has been released, you kind of it paints the picture.
Mm-hmm.
Again, Toronto knew this, but for the rest of us, it paints the picture of, wow, they're really spending that much money, and they're really underperforming by that much, right? So, yeah, I mean, listen, in general, I would say, and you've seen it in Atlanta, right? Since Tata, like when you recycle through all these different managers, and now this is someone who's wearing two hats.
Yeah.
It as an organization, it feels like you fall further back as you're trying to move up. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
each change, now you've got to figure things out, and maybe it's a different style, and maybe you need different players, and that takes a few different windows to do that, and you fall further behind in your rebuild. So that said as well, it's a cliche, but it's a results business, and the results aren't there right now. So, and again, I feel like they've pulled the trigger earlier, right, on Chris Armas.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think they should get. I think they need to get a win tonight, right? So
yeah, but then the question is, I mean, well, and we know that Red Bulls play with the ball has cooties, and it's next to last versus last in the East. And I know that this identical records, identical everything. I mean, Toronto. The only reason that now I'm still trying to figure out how. What's wait a second. All right, so tiebreakers. I'm blanking out here. Red Bulls are ahead of Toronto in the standings. Identical records. Is it just goal difference? Is that with the one goal that's the goal difference? Is that
it goes wins and then goals?
Okay, because it's one goal on goal difference, identical records home and away, and I'm like, wow, okay, all right, so goal difference.
And then one team had the managerial change, and the other one doesn't.
Right, and so you have this matchup here. And the question for me is, and we could apply it also in the West with the teams at the bottom, and we talked about them ad infinitum ad nauseum, but nothing seems to change except the margin gets closer. We can get into that in just a little bit. But then, all right, so Toronto, we know that Toronto FC, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, they are going to spend money. They don't care. They own basically everything in and around the post office, working their way down the QEW toward the airport, and they don't care. They don't blink twice about this kind of stuff. If they let Bob Bradley go, then who do they bring in, especially now that you've just completed turn one at Pocono here? For a NASCAR analogy, you've just done turn one of the Tricky Triangle, and you're on the backstretch heading toward turn two. You're a third of the way through the season. Who would you bring in, even though we know that you would spend money to do it?
All right. So I don't think this is going to be the case, right? But we're having fun on a Wednesday, right?
Sure. Yeah. We're having fun on a Wednesday.
Let's throw a boatload of loonies, right? That's what it's called out there, loonies, right? I think
the dollar coins are loonies. The $2 coins are toonies.
So a whole bunch of toonies and loonies.
Okay.
A Brinks truck of them.
Okay.
And somehow convince John Herdman to step down.
Interesting. I think it would be chaotic, but okay.
Sure, right? That's what we're about. Chaos on a Wednesday.
We are about chaos on a Wednesday. But so, I mean,
I don't think we do it. I mean, obviously, kind of being where they are, you're going into a cycle where you're a co-host of the World Cup. But listen, he's a guy in the country. He's proven with the men and the women, at least national team wise, right? He can get the job done. So
create his own brand of chaos as a head coach. So yeah, sure. Let's add to the chaos and just have John Herdman step.
You familiar with some of the guys?
Yeah. And then in the West, you mentioned the point of having multiple hats. You've got Peter Vermes, and the margins are still there. Once again, we're talking last and next to last in the West with LAG and with Sporting. Sporting has won a couple to get to 9 points. They're still last. They're behind LAG. But in Greg Vanney and in Peter Vermes, you have the same thing where you have dude who's in charge. And I know that Vanney doesn't have the titles, but because of all of the suspensions and who's not allowed in and who can't touch anything right now, don't touch the egg, Joel, that's over the fireplace. That's your Google reference in the movies today, kids.
That's a great reference.
Sporting Kansas City, Peter Vermes, multiple hats. LAG, Greg Vanney by default has multiple hats. You're getting into a lot of these big market situations.
I think we're learning there should be multiple hats.
Yeah, but once again, when you have these managers who have these established pedigrees, whether it's in one market or multiple markets over time, they're going to demand that Parcellian kind of pedigree.
100%. Yeah, I mean, look at Bruce Arena in New England, right?
Yeah,
that's what convinced him to go there is to have both of those, to wear both of those hats.
And you're not going to have, and even if things are challenging for you, you are not going to be challenged within the local media in a place like New England, because all Bruce Arena has to do is hide out at the husk of Toby Keith's restaurant and no one will ask him a question. And if it's on a Zoom, he may just, turn up his nose and give a curt response, where in Toronto, the media will go after you. In Kansas City, the media covers Sporting because there aren't a whole lot of other things to do in town. In LA, because it's LA, they'll go after you because of where you are, meaning Los Angeles, and trying to keep up with the Joneses, you're not. And it's the inherent danger of wearing both of these hats that is right now staring at each of these three markets that are at the bottom of the standings right now.
Yes.
That's wild. That's wild. That's wild, crazy stuff, isn't it, Dylan? Yes, that's absolutely.
I will say, credit to Sporting, certainly, where and listen, Vermes has been, if anything, he has been steadfast in what he's been saying, right?
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't changed his talking points, which are, he had to be the most patient of anybody. He said, we've had a lot of injuries, and now that affects other guys, and now that the guys are getting back. I thought it was very interesting in the last press conference, where he referenced the ownership as well as being of the same cloth. So being patient, right? And it wasn't a question about his job, but you can tell that narrative was being talked about, right?
Right.
At least behind closed doors. So, and they are healthier now, and they're getting results, and they're not just getting, they're getting convincing results as well. So, full credit to them. And then LA, it's not fixed by any means, but an important win, even as ugly as it was, to beat San Jose on Sunday. So, is that a stay of execution? I don't know. I still think there's a lot of, issues there that will not be fixed with this secondary transfer window being closed for them. So,
all right, sticking with the West, what the hell's going on in Austin?
That's great.
Well, I mean, is it something as simplistic as saying, okay, keep Driussi handcuffed and there is no secondary scorer? Is it that simple?
It would seem that way. And what I find comical a little bit here is they're one of those teams, and Toronto's another one of those teams, right, where it was pretty clear last year, and then in the off season, and then this year, like, what your needs are, right? What does Toronto need? Right? They need help in the back.
Yes.
Spending what you did on Sean Johnson, and listen, I loved the signing of Hedges, but obviously he's been out as well. So for Austin, it was getting Jerisi help, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it's on the wings, but especially as a number 9, like let's give this dude some assistance here. And they really didn't address that, did they? I mean, they tried to, I suppose, but failed.
Mm-hmm.
In Joshy, right?
Yeah.
So it's weird. Now again, I suspect the Reyna situation happening the way it did, maybe blindsided folks there, right? Maybe it affected the primary transfer window. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Giving them benefit of doubt there, but yeah, no, I mean, you have needs, and you're not addressing them now. NYCFC, in a similar fashion, they knew they didn't really have a true number 9, so they tried a couple things. They tweaked a few things, but didn't work. But now you're hearing, that they might be in the market for another U22 initiative number 9.
Yeah.
So they're proactive about it. I don't see that from Toronto, and I've not seen that from Austin. So
tomorrow it is anticipated, possibly, probably, hopefully, maybe, that in San Diego there will be an announcement where Auburn University grad Mohammed Mansour, who is tied to one of the parties in Britain. I think he's like treasurer of the Conservative Party or something like that. And the Siquan tribe are combining to drop $500 million to become Team 30. And apparently FC San Diego has been trademarked already. That folks have already gone down the USPTO route. And it looks like FC San Diego is in the clubhouse at the moment.
S or F?
F, football. I think that's what it was. One of the blank C San Diegos has been trademarked. And it looks
do we need another FC?
No. We don't need another SC. We don't need another FC. But anyway, that's been trademarked, and they've got a couple of years to figure it out. But it appears that Mr. Mansour and the Siquan tribe are going to drop $500 million to go play at Snapdragon and be Team 30. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
if you got the checkbook, brother, I know that Major League Soccer is going to sit there and go back it up.
Did I think they would be 30? No, I thought Vegas would have been 30.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to kind of hear remarks from, I'm sure that question will be asked to Don Garber, and we'll hear what he says about that. Fully would expect them to be 31 then, but yeah, I like it. I think it's, it's another California market. It's a little past, obviously, LA. But what I think is super interesting, and I think what they're probably looking to try to capitalize on, is you are right. Like, what is it? A 15-minute drive to Tijuana?
Yeah, from the city. Yeah, I don't know what it is from Snapdragon.
When Cholos plays in San Diego, like huge crowds, right? Like maybe convince some of those fans, to follow your local team now. Yeah. To, and I would expect that team too as well to definitely try to get an established Mexican name to be part of that group as well. They would be foolish not to. But I like it. Look, I mean, it's although I've never been, it's a beautiful part of the country. I would suspect that it's I hadn't really looked too much into the ownership group and what they've been trying to do, but definitely think I'm sure they've done their due diligence, and I'm just looking forward to that Leagues Cup match, right, between Tijuana and Real San Diego FC or whatever.
Yes, so, exactly.
Put all the names all together, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think I like it, and it's funny too. I've never realized until I had a friend who did some PR work or some media relations work with Tijuana, and he lives in San Diego. I was like, wow, how long? He's like, dude, it's super quick. He's like, so many of the Cholos players actually live in, if not all of them, live in San Diego. They have that to get through customs. What is that kind of easy pass, right?
Yep.
like 15-minute drive, 20-minute drive. Like it's so fast, so quick to get from one to the other. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think it's an interesting one. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you necessarily are trying to convince San Diego Cholos fans to leave their club and become a San Diego fan, but I think at least until they play each other, there's no reason that you could have both. No, like you can stay with your allegiance to Cholos and
embrace
support your new club. So.
Embrace Major League Soccer. We're cool with you hanging out with Cholos. Apparently, MLS Commissioner Don Garber, Mohammed Mansour, and the Siquan tribe are going to be joined by San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and special guests, capital S, capital G, for a major soccer announcement Thursday, 10:45 a.m. local time. So 1:45 tomorrow afternoon. It looks like Team 30 is going to be San Diego. So in a very, very busy week of stuff, what other matchups are you looking at tonight? What are you staring at tonight, and what are you staring at on the weekend on a quick turn for everybody? Okay. So here we go. All right, so we'll run it down.
I'll look at today, or tonight, I should say.
Yeah.
Starting in the East.
Yeah.
I would say Cincinnati Montreal is interesting.
Yeah.
Right. Cincinnati coming off the bye, Montreal, strangely, and this is another reason why you don't bet MLS, right? Like,
yes,
they've got, what is it, 6 straight wins, 4 straight by 2-0.
Yeah.
And if you include the Can Champ, they've got 8 wins in a row, right? So they're cooking right now, facing a Cincinnati team, obviously. I think weird things happen when Orlando and NYCFC play. So kind of looking forward to that one. Toronto Red Bull, we mentioned that before.
Mm-hmm.
That one goes back to the old school of the fight in the tunnel. I'd be interested to see if Sasha Kleshkin brings that up.
Oh, somebody needs to fire off the YouTube clip or something.
Yeah.
Shoot it to him in an email, or shoot it to him on the Bird app before he goes into 360 mode. It's like, do you remember this? Post the YouTube link and have him comment, because you know that everybody else on the crew is going to sit there and they're going to give him the business on it.
They could walk through, you know how sometimes they do the goals on set, right? Like they could walk through the whole thing on set.
Spot shadow and graphics, and it's like, right. Now here's question. Follow along. He's in the spot shadow, then you remove it and you see what's going on.
Nashville, Miami.
Yeah,
I think is an interesting one as well, right? Miami's playing pretty well. Nashville, solid. And then later on, I think it's the last 2 with LAFC, SKC.
Mm-hmm.
SKC's had some really good results, but now you're going up against the Beast.
Uh-huh.
And in the Seattle, Austin, you would expect, and again, this is why you don't bet MLS.
Correct.
You would expect a big number for Seattle in that game, right?
Oh yeah.
Like a 3-0 maybe.
Yeah.
But
once again. And then on the weekend, you've got Hell is Real.
Yes.
Cincinnati right now is favored at a -145 at TQL for Hell is Real. Then you've got Florida, you've got Herons and Lions, you've got Red Bulls hosting CF Montreal, you've got Union and Revs. That rivalry between Austin FC and Toronto FC, that one's a good 8.
Union and Revs have had some interesting battles.
There's been some spiciness there. Atlanta goes to Chicago, and they're going to play at the Spaceship. You got Copa Tejas with Dallas and Houston. Colorado and RSL. That's a little old.
Dallas Houston this year. That Texas Derby. I think that could be interesting. The way that Houston started up, and the way that Dallas has been pretty consistently, just behind that top 2 or 3 in the West. So
St. Louis City SC and Sporting Kansas City. That one's interesting for a couple of different reasons. Just ask the Cardinals and the Royals about that one. You've got the other end of the Cali Classico with LAFC and San Jose.
LAFC has dominated that. I feel like it's something insane the number of goals for versus against.
Minus 196 right now in the juice boxes for LAFC going up against San Jose, who's almost a plus 485. Portland and Minnesota, we all know about that one. That being a barn burner. And then
Evander is feeling himself right now, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
And then you end up with the other part of Cascadia, Vancouver hosting Seattle. Vancouver, BC Place traditionally is an underrated, tough place to play.
Correct.
I don't care what part of the world you're coming from. You could be flying in, yes, from the Eastern time zone like we are here, but it doesn't seem to matter what part of the world you fly into. Playing at BC Place is a pain in the you-know-what. Universally, it is a pain in the you-know-what. So out of all of those, once again, late matches on the later matches on Saturday seem to be quick. And you're coming off of quick turns from the matches in the midweek, having to dust yourself off, turn yourself around, and get back into other matches on the weekend. So
yes, and now you got rotated squads, which adds to the chaos. So,
what is the rest of your week like? Getting ready for tonight, and then turning around. What is Dylan Butler? What is your PT plan? What's your PT plan for physical therapy after getting through tonight? And do you give yourself a rest day tomorrow and then you do regen on Friday to get ready for Saturday?
You're funny. You're forgetting I'm a father of a 4-year-old. So I, after my afternoon shift today, it'll be, she's got a program or a class in the library. We'll hang out there, come home, probably play in the backyard a little bit. Matches tonight, and then tomorrow get to sleep in a little bit, but then after her dance class, then it's all daddy daycare the rest of the day. So
okay, what's the latest with high school and varsity media on YouTube?
Yeah, thankfully it's a slow week this week. We go from like playoffs to we go from the end of the regular season in lacrosse to the start of the postseason, which will be like Saturday, but we don't have like there's no like really sort of tantalizing early round matches, or matchups, I should say. So we'll head up to semifinals starting like next Tuesday, Wednesday. So excited that I literally just did a call for the team hosting the Tuesday match, who has like a bye, that first round bye. So to get that chart done earlier is a blessing, which is why I have the blessed mug.
There you go, the blessed mug. Because those 1-4s, those early 1-4 matchups in some classes, that really does turn out to be blowout city, and it is not.
Well, that's why I actually have that. I have the 1-4 in a lower classification, and then I have I'll have a 1-4 in the higher classification, but in that one, like the top 4 teams have been pretty tight. So
okay. All right.
That one should be good on Wednesday.
All right. At Dylan_Butler. Dylan, as always, thanks for coming on for Wednesdays with Dylan in a compressed double match week. Get your fantasy teams all prepped. Enjoy your morning regen tomorrow. And before everything picks back up, we'll catch up with you again next week, my friend.
All right, buddy.
It's Dylan Butler, who is running around like hell. He's running around like hell. That's what happens when you're in a double match week. But thanks, as always, to Dylan for coming on Wednesdays and then breaking things down from a national basis for us. Bart Keeler had entirely too much Flair and Balogun yesterday. And so he is under the weather. So Dylan, it's Dylan at 10 and then Bart traditionally at 10:30. But Bart is under the weather, having to recover from Flair and Balogun day. And so Bart will join us when he's healthy or when there's other breaking news and he wants to crash the party. But so we can pay bills. So we can pay bills around here. Let's do that now, because we actually can do that. And it's the beauty of having just stuff to talk about. And let everything roll through. Set your audio levels. Knock out your loop, and here we go. For odor-free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's a Lemonize service. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Deodorizing enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos, Eliminize Services created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminize service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process, makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Kind to the environment. We like that these days. Turnkey, it's a very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or our favorite masking agents that we have either under the sink or above us in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard, pull out the masking agent, spray the masking agent in the air. There's a reason they call it a masking agent, because all it does is mask the odor. It doesn't attack the problem all the way down to the molecule, like Eliminize does with their proven scientific formula. Pricing one of two ways to make it affordable for you, either by the cubic foot or parts per million. Come up with a price that's affordable for you. Offering results in 24 hours or less. If you have any questions, frequently asked or otherwise, here's where you go. You go to the website, but do us a favor here at SDH, and this is where I grab my pen. There we go. Go to eliminize.com, but after the .com, go /Atlanta, so they know what part of the world that you are addressing them from, so they can help you with your problem. Full homework assignment. ELIMINIZE.com/Atlanta, Eliminize.com/Atlanta. Eliminize Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a midweek whip-around Wednesday, Walpassian style, where you guys have had some great conversations about everything going on in the world this morning. Talking about MLS Team 30, talking about tonight with Atlanta United and Colorado. Hoping to see a lot of you there tonight. I know it's a midweek game, but it's a big one tonight. Atlanta United 4th in the East right now. A lot of folks at 15 points, and I mean a lot of folks at 15 points behind them in the Eastern Conference. So it's a big one tonight. So we'll see what Colorado has in mind and how Atlanta United can try to break through what Colorado is probably planning on doing. But, in the East, New England, Cincinnati at 24 points. Nashville's 5 back. Atlanta right now at 18 points at 5-4-3. Philadelphia's at 17 points. Miami, Montreal, Columbus. Miami and Montreal have 5 wins. Miami's better on goal difference. Columbus, 11 matches, 4-4-3. DC, 15 points. New York City, 15 points. Orlando, 15 points. Charlotte, 15 points. So basically, 6 through 12, 7 teams at 15 points. Chicago's at 14. New York and Toronto play each other tonight. They're both 2-4-6. They are at 12. In the West, Seattle's at 23 points at 7-3-2. Once again, they've only given up 9 goals all season in their 12 matches. LAFC is second. They played only 10 matches. Perfect at home at 4-0. St. Louis City has a bye tonight. Their early start, they have cooled off a lot. They're at 19 points. Dallas at 18, San Jose at 18, Dallas ahead on goal difference. Portland's at 15, Houston and Vancouver at 14, and Houston has a better points per game average, and they also have one more win. Minnesota's at 12 points. Remember, they got Emmanuel Reynoso back. No timetable yet on his return, but he has returned to the team. 12 points. And they are above the playoff bar right now because of points per game average and one more win. Colorado below the playoff bar, coming in with a record of 2-4-6. 10 scored in 12 matches. They've given up 14. William Yarborough between the sticks, that'll do it for you. Yarborough's had to stand on his head a lot. But as Jason said in hour number 1, Colorado, one of 4 teams in the Western Conference that is 500 or better. It is Seattle and St. Louis at 3-2-1, LAFC 2-1-3, Dallas at 2-2-2, and Colorado is at 2-2-3. So there you go with so that's your records with folks that are 500 or better in the West. Salt Lake's at 11 points, Austin's at 10. LAG and Kansas City are at 9 points, and that's what gets us into tonight. Jordan, glad you got back from Morocco. Hope you had fun. Hope you took a lot of pictures. Hope you brought back stuff. It'll be good to see everybody at the match tonight. Morning, Alex. You're not late. We've been talking stuff, and it's been a very, very busy morning on a bunch of different fronts. News of the day, and I don't know if you saw this yesterday, but once again, we mentioned what's going on with Mohamed Mansour and the press conference tomorrow at 1:45 Eastern time. It looks like starting in 2025, the Team 30 in Major League Soccer will be San Diego. San Diego Loyal says they're not going anywhere. So we'll see what happens. We know about relationships with teams and, second divisions and things like that. So we'll see what San Diego Loyal has in mind. Don't know if you saw this yesterday, but the Concussion Legacy Foundation, the Christopher Nowinski group out of Boston, has a new study out, identified stage 4 CTE in the brains of 4 former NASL players. And Jimmy Conway, Jimmy Fryatt, Jimmy Gabriel, and Franny Pentuosco all died with stage 4 CTE. Family members believe headers played a role. Article from Oregon Live and Ryan Clark, coming from the perspective of the Portland Timbers and Jimmy Conway. And Conway died at the age of 73 back in 2020 after battling trauma-induced dementia. And it gets into the discussion about CTE, the Ryan Clark article. Study conducted by a research team in Boston led by Dr. Ann McKee, who examined Conway's brain post-mortem, currently the only way to diagnose the disease. McKee said in a news release, soccer poses a clear risk for the development of CTE. We found CTE in soccer players, young and old, non-professional and professional. There needs to be greater emphasis on reducing or eliminating heading during soccer, as heading is a major source of concussions and the repetitive non-concussive injuries that cause CTE. According to researchers, Conway's wife, Nolene, began noticing Conway's struggles maintaining conversations beginning in his mid-50s. At 63, 10 years before his death, Conway went public with his diagnosis of dementia. BU researchers have identified CTE in the brains of 91.7% of 376 players that they've studied, 345 out of 376. Headers and head-to-head collisions are major risk factors for the development of the disease, according to the Concussion Legacy Foundation. Nowinski in the release, he says he's frustrated, and American soccer organizations have so far refused to acknowledge that repeated heading in soccer can cause CTE. CTE is entirely preventable, and every day they don't confront it, we give soccer players new cases of CTE. Considering how many children play between the ages of 11 and 18 when heading is allowed, this is simply unacceptable, end quote. So Concussion Legacy Foundation has a helpline at clfhelpline.org. And so former soccer players interested in contributing to research efforts can join the CLF Research Registry, which allows former players to enroll in relevant studies as well. So Ryan Clark had an article, and after the Concussion Legacy Foundation posted their findings yesterday. Also on the board, club rankings. We had that from CONCACAF yesterday. And that came out. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff that happened. And there are some days where you sit there and you go, there's entirely too much happening, and we need to go the extra, half hour or what have you. But it was very, 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 very busy news day, and we're going to try and blow through that here in the final 20 minutes or so. This is from the Club Ranking Index. Monterrey and Club America are 1-2. LAFC is the highest ranked Major League Soccer team at number 3, 12 points behind Club America. You end up with 5 more teams from Liga MX at 4 through 8. Philadelphia Union, Seattle Sounders at 9 and 10. Nashville is at number 13. CF Montreal is your first Canadian franchise at number 14. Then MLS teams pick it up from 18 through 23. NYCFC, Revs, Timbers, Dallas, Red Bulls, and Crew. Orlando City, Minnesota United, 26 and 27. Atlanta United is number 29 on the list, ahead of LA Galaxy. RSL, Sporting, FC Cincinnati, Inter Miami, Colorado Rapids. Olympia from Honduras is at number 39, ahead of the Whitecaps on Toronto FC. Fire, Earthquakes, Dynamo, and DC are 42 through 45. Saprissa is at 46. Comunicaciones from Guatemala, 47. Charlotte, St. Louis City, Austin take you through the top 50. So that's your CONCACAF rankings. They've come up with their own numbers and have laid things out there. We mentioned everything that has gone on in Disco and the elongated disciplinary committee release that Dylan apparently was part and parcel for. The words came out of France and from our friends at L'Equipe about Michelle Kang and her interest in OL Group and the subplot that's attached where Michelle Kang has acquired Lyon Féminine, taking a 52% stake in that, and the OL Group stake remains at 48%. She's become majority owner of OL Féminine to create a new women-led multi-club soccer organization. So Eagle Football Holdings, the majority owner of men's French club Lyon, OL Group, the owner of OL Reign, and Kang, who acquired the Spirit in February of 2022. So Lyon's women's team, 8 women's Champions League titles, previously controlled by John Textor's Eagle Football Holdings following their takeover of Lyon last December. Textor serves as chief exec and chairman of OL Group. Kang, a minority shareholder in Eagle, will hold a 52% stake in Lyon Féminine, valued at $54 million. OL Group will, for now, hold the remaining 48%. Majority owner, chief exec of the newly formed company, which will look to acquire additional teams in Europe, the Americas, and Asia. And she is also joining OL Group's board of directors. Deal's expected to close at the end of June, subject to the satisfaction of conditions approved by the NWSL and third-party approvals in France. OL Group has confirmed it's selling Reign in order to avoid any potential conflict of interest with the NWSL regarding Kang's ownership of Spirit and Féminine. So that was the wrinkle in all of this. It's like, okay, OL Reign and Michelle Kang, who owns Washington Spirit, now owning a part of Eagle Group. And so what they're going to do is they're going to put Reign on the market. She's going to keep Spirit. And she admitted that she's looking forward to having competitions involving Spirit and the European side of things. And so it'll be very, very interesting to see how this continues to grow. But it's also now the third team that's on the market in the NWSL. So we'll see what happens with OL Reign going forward with Michelle Kang. And there's a really good deep dive in The Athletic to catch up with Michelle Kang. So if you have The Athletic, and there are ways to get The Athletic for not $9 a month, but requested required reading is Michelle Kang and her relationship now with OL Group and how that affects the NWSL going forward. Overseas, we got stuff. Today, it is number 2. It is the second leg of Manchester City and Real Madrid. And it will be very, very interesting what happens in this one with what happened yesterday in the Derby della Madonnina. We know who's come through on one side. Manchester City to win the match in the juice boxes is a -175. Draws a +361. Real Madrid's a +463. Right now tied at 1. The equalizer by Kevin De Bruyne as set things up for Manchester City at the Etihad this afternoon at 3 o'clock. For those of you who'll be watching on Fox. Beat 2, 3, 4. That didn't go well yesterday. Although you do give Pete Radovich, the senior producer at CBS, a lot of credit for going along with the gag when he posted what was going on Twitter. So Kate Abdo, for those of you who missed, when she was discussing what was going on, we all know that it's a big Paramount Plus property, and she said that they were on Fox. And so that drew basically Thierry Henry falling out right there at the table. So it was It was a pretty funny moment. The Qataris have told Manchester United bankers, according to Tom Morgan at the Telegraph, it's take it or leave it. Of course, take it or leave it for the most part means that we're serious. We're really serious about this. We're really, really serious. We mean it. Sheikh Jassim bin Hamad Al Thani has put the 11th hour offer for 100% from Tom Morgan and James Ducker at the Telegraph. Improved bid was made to Rain Group Tuesday morning outside of the formalized bidding timeline after leaks that his previous offer fell short of Sir Jim Ratcliffe's valuation. But once again, remember, Sir Jim Ratcliffe's evaluation and his bid are only for a portion that could keep the Glazer family attached. We all know how the fans feel about that. So Sheikh Jassim has moved his bid up in the dollar figures. Increased bid from the chairman of the Qatar Islamic Bank and son of the former prime minister remains for 100% of the club. Included in the new terms is a fresh pledge to clear all of United's existing debts and also set up a separate fund directed solely at the club and community, according to the insider that reached out to the Telegraph. It is thought those additional funds will be earmarked in part for the redevelopment of Old Trafford and the Carrington training ground. However, the thought is, however, that this late bid may lessen the likelihood of United being in a position to announce a preferred bidder this week. Ratcliffe's offer limited to a maximum purchase of basically 2/3 of the shares. Third round deadline passed April 28th. Ratcliffe was said to have come closest to reaching the £6 billion valuation. Ratcliffe and Ineos also made a proposal to take a 50.1% share that would allow the Glazers to retain a minority stake for 3 years before being automatically forced out. No bidder has yet been granted exclusivity. Transfer window opens June 10. Clock is ticking there. Erik ten Hag wants to move forward and bring in folks, wants to get rid of folks. How much can he do? How much can he not do? We don't know yet because there's no preferred bidder. Sheikh Jassim's camp are adamant that their offer of additional capital investment to fund redevelopment of Old Trafford and Carrington training ground is on top of their bid to the Glazers and have been bemused by any suggestions to the contrary. Remember, it was Elliott, Carlyle, and Ares, all of those investment firms that were attached to this as well. But it has come down to Sheikh Jassim, and it has come down to Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Ineos. Those are your two. But it looks like that Sheikh Jassim has jacked up his bid. Granit Xhaka is expected to leave Arsenal with a £13 million Bayer Leverkusen deal advancing forward. Real Madrid wants everybody. They want everyone. Love to know how they're going to pay for it, but they want everybody. Tom Morgan also this morning, and Tom Russo, you might want to plug your ears briefly. Tom Morgan, Sam Wallace, and this goes to what Tom has been talking about in our timeline in the Twitch pitch and when we've seen him at events. Everton's relegation rivals told the Premier League are powerless to fast-track an FFP verdict. Quoting Morgan and Wallace, Everton's rivals have been told the Premier League is powerless to fast-track the process of a hearing over FFP charges. Leeds, Leicester, Forest, and Southampton are understood to have expressed concern that the possibility of a points deduction should be decided urgently. However, the timeline for ongoing deliberations is set by an independent commission, and the Premier League cannot interfere with the process once it's made their charges. All clubs sign up to the rules each year. Clubs are understood to have been told due process cannot be expedited because of the wishes of other folks. One club has now told the Telegraph privately of heightened fears that the case will now be resolved after the start of next season. Now, remember, we had this before in lower divisions with, I want to say it was Derby and Wycombe a couple of years ago, where Wycombe was mad, and they thought that they should have been able to stay up because of the situation in the lower divisions because of investigations going on that weren't done in time. And if I'm not mistaken, I thought Wickham was debating taking folks to court over the idea of being reinstated to the league that they were relegated from. Yeah, the MePL. Yes, exactly, Hutcho. After recording losses of just under £372 million over 3 years, they are alleged, Everton, to have broken the league's profitability and sustainability rules, basically FFP. That's just the longer version of saying FFP. In the period ending for the 21-22 season, Premier League first raised the possibility of a potential points deduction against Everton March 24th when charges were announced. Premier League clubs, as a rule, are allowed to lose a maximum of $105 million over 3 years, but Everton's spending in the transfer window under Farhad Moshiri means they could face a lot of sanctions. Points deduction, heavy fines, spending restrictions. But the move to charge Everton was regarded as significant towards the end of last season. Burnley and Leeds both indicated they were prepared to take legal action against the league and Everton if breaches were proven. £700 million has been spent by Everton on more than 50 players since Farhad Moshiri's takeover 7 years ago. Onana, 31.5. Iwobi, 28. Yeremina, 27. Supposed to move to a new stadium at Bramley Moor Dock in 25, although it's understood there have been challenges in funding the project. Understood the losses cover 4 years, from 2018-19 to 2021-22, with an average taken from the 2 campaigns affected by COVID. Everton announced losses of $120.9 million last March. Also reported losses in the 3 years before that, the highest being $139.9 and $13.1 million in 2018. So once again, like I said, Tom knows all about this. We've been talking about it a lot. Paul Tierney's been named the referee for the FA Cup final between Manchester United and Manchester City. Tottenham target Arne Slot is poised to receive a near £3 million offer to stay at Feyenoord. Xabi Alonso said this morning he's not interested. He's pulled his name out. Members of Parliament have offered to pay for Notts County's promotion party after the council cut the block celebration. And yesterday, Howard Webb explaining VAR decisions on TV was interesting, that it was on Sky. Will that ever happen here? Doubtful. But it was interesting to see that happen on British television. Abby, we'll see at the match. We'll see at the match, definitely. Let's see. What else do we have going on here today? Luton have reached Wembley and turned the tables on Sunderland. Sunderland's thinking of firing Tony Mowbray now. You get beat by Luton Town, you're in the promotion playoff. You don't make it to the promotion final, so you're thinking of sacking your manager. Good talk. Wilfred Zaha's considering staying at Crystal Palace. Out of contract at the end of the year. Could be getting the highest offer for any player ever in the history of ever at Crystal Palace. There's a great article over at Talk Sport about Charlton Athletic and the takeover chaos that's there. If you're into lower division stuff. So that's part of requested reading for the day. Stuff in the lower divisions and how messy it can get. Let's see. So the official word is out now. Marcelo Bielsa is on a 3-year deal with the Uruguayan national team. So very, very cool stuff there. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo before we go. Oh, we got to get into the Jack Warner stuff too. Here's your transfer stuff. PSG football advisor Luis Campos met with Harry Kane's reps, according to our friends at Foot Mercato. Real Madrid. Okay, so Sky. This is from Sky. Here's who Real Madrid want to sign. They want to sign Mbappe, Alphonso Davies, and Jude Bellingham this summer. Yeah, you get the money for that. Barcelona want to re-sign Messi and Neymar. from PSG. Yeah, and you get the money for that too. Arsenal and Barcelona are interested in Ilkay Gundogan, who wants more than a one-year deal to stay at Manchester City. Bayern Munich open to selling Sadio Mane in the summer, unlikely to turn Joao Cancelo's loan into a permanent £60 million deal. Bayer Leverkusen in advanced talks about Granit Xhaka. We just mentioned that. Spurs considering David Raya as your replacement for Hugo Lloris. Roma's Tammy Abraham says Reece James has told him to return to Stamford Bridge. Manchester United, Newcastle also interested in Tammy Abraham. Brighton are expected to sign Borussia Dortmund midfielder Mahmoud Daoud, who's out of contract this summer. Leeds have to avoid relegation to have a chance to bring in James Milner back to the club, though Brighton remain favorites to sign him when his contract runs out in the summer. That's from the four-letter paper. Burnley manager Vincent Kompany's keen on 23-year-old Arsenal midfielder Sambi Lokonga, who's currently on loan at Crystal Palace. That's from the three-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Spurs' list of candidates for sporting director includes Tim Stuyton, who held a similar role at Bayer Leverkusen, with Brentford's Lee Dykes and Roma's Thiago Pinto also under consideration. Chelsea interested in Katerina Macario and Canada defender Ashley Lawrence, with Denmark's Pernille Harder and Magdalena Eriksson set to join Bayern Munich this summer. So that's some news on the women's professional front. The other story is Jack Warner. Okay, so it was from Ken Benzinger. And usually what I do is I write down a lot of things during the day that we end up talking about here. This is what happens when you don't have an afternoon show. Everything kind of stockpiles in the morning. So updates in the FIFA case involving Jack Warner. DOJ has asked for sentencing dates in late 2023 for Daryl and Darian Warner, the sons of former FIFA VP and CONCACAF president Jack Warner. That's notable because they're still trying to extradite Jack from Trinidad and Tobago. According to Benzinger, the sons flipped early and they've been in South Florida. Benzinger says the presumption is they'd one day have to testify against their father, but is this a sign the feds don't expect to ever see Jack in court? The second trial ended in April, and Alejandro Berzacco was sentenced last week. Richard Lai, the sole charged official from the Asian Football Confederation, sentenced on March 27 to time served with no probation, same as Berzacco. That suggests that, according to Benzinger, the Department of Justice may no longer be pursuing cases against officials from the Asian Confederation, including any from Qatar. Lai, who is from Guam, was a former member of the Asian Football Confederation Executive Committee, pleaded guilty to corruption charges, including bribes from Kuwait's Sheikh Ahmad and Qatar's Mohammed bin Hammam. He'd been cooperating with prosecutors, was thought to be the link to expand the case farther. There are 9 others, including Jeffrey Webb, who are awaiting sentencing in 2023. Webb's is April the 8th. Hernan Lopez, convicted at trial in April, is appealing. Recently moved for an acquittal. Meanwhile, Juan Angel Napu, convicted at trial in 2017, sentenced to 9 years, just filed a sealed motion to reduce his sentence, scheduled to be released in August of 2024. So, so that is your FIFA update for today. Soccer on the TV before we go. And once again, broadcast plans for the match tonight with Atlanta United and Colorado. 7 o'clock, 92.9 the game with Mike and Jason. 7:39 kick and full hour of the full-time report after the fact. So, soccer on TV today. Champions League, obviously. Manchester City, Real Madrid's on Big CBS at 3. It's on 2NA at 3. It's on Univision at 3. And it's also on Paramount Plus at 3. FS1's got Philadelphia, DC United. Gold TV has the Peruvian Primera at 8:30. If for any reason, if you don't have like BN or Taysay or For the Fans or Goal, you can sign up at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Watched the Turkish Premier League yesterday with Istanbulspor and Galatasaray in the afternoon. Helps out the show, helps them out, and it's really good stuff for a lot of matches that you wouldn't have any other opportunity to catch, like on a VPN or anything to endanger your computer. So fntz.co/soccer down here for Fanatis. Mexican Liga MX semifinals, Tigres and Monterrey is at 10:30. That's also on Univision. Rundown of Apple TV tonight. Atlanta United, Colorado is on the free side. Charlotte, Chicago, season pass. Cincinnati, Montreal, free. Columbus, LAG, season pass. Orlando City, NYC, Philadelphia, DC United, free. Toronto, Red Bull, season pass. Dallas, Vancouver, Minnesota, Houston, free. Nashville, Inter Miami, season pass. Season pass also for RSL Portland, LAFC Sporting, and Seattle and Austin FC. They're also offering the free month if you sign up this month for Apple TV and MLS Season Pass. On the plus, promotion playoff, Middlesbrough and Coventry City. Who gets to take on Luton Town? Luton would have to invest $12 million in capital improvements if they make it to the Premier League. USL Championship tonight, Loud United, New Mexico United, Orange County and Sacramento's late at 10, North Carolina, Richmond's at 7. English Women's Super League at 1:15 and 3:15, Everton, Arsenal, West Ham, and Chelsea. NWSL Challenge Cup is at 7:30, Lou City and Kansas City Current. I think that's everything. Thanks, as always, to all of you guys for being a part of the show and trading all of the back and forth that we always do. It's always fun to hear what you guys have to say on a daily basis. Thanks, as always, for being a part of the Twitch pitch. Thanks for being a part of the show. Thanks for being a part of the SDH family. We'll be back at it again tomorrow as normal so we can talk about what happened today. We'll talk about it tomorrow starting at 9:05. Everybody can come in. We'll talk stuff. That's the official term. So thanks for hanging out with us here on another go-round of SDH Soccer's Morning Show. If you missed Ted Lasso, episode 10 last night, get caught up. That's all I'm going to say. No spoilers. That's why I'm wearing my Roy Kent t-shirt today. So thanks for being a part of everything. We'll catch up with you at the match tonight. We'll catch up with you tomorrow morning here at 9:05. For everybody here, thanks for hanging out. Another go-round of SDH. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy the match tonight. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning at 9:05. Play it safe, everybody. Since it's the end of the show, that means I get to do this.